I think it was about last week when I saw the new trailer for the second season of Hazbin Hotel, and it got me so excited that I thought I should continue my series for turning Disney villains into Hazbin Hotel characters. And this time I'm going by some popular requests from people in my last videos, so let's start off with the most popular of them all, Ursula. So Ursula was the antagonist of the first Little Mermaid film, and when Ariel first met her, Ursula actually promised what seemed to be a fair deal to the main character. The whole consensus of the deal was basically if the prince kisses her within 3 days, then she gets to keep her human form and be with the prince forever. However, the only issue to that is that Ariel doesn't get to keep her voice. Looking back at this now, it's not a very favourable deal just because there was no confirmation on whether or not Ariel would even get her voice back if the kiss were to have happened. Also, as we are aware, Ursula was not very fair on her side of the deal since she kept meddling with Ariel's chances. For example, during that Blue Lagoon scene, she got her eels to tip the boat when Ariel and Eric were about to kiss. Also, at the end of the second day, she was quite desperate to prevent Eric and Ariel from kissing, to a point where she basically turned herself into a human that resembled Ariel and used Ariel's voice to manipulate Eric. I don't know much about Ursula and why she was casted out from the Mermaid Kingdom, but I would say that her trickery and manipulation is very much enough to get her to Hazbin Hotel Hell, especially since she's probably tricked so many merfolk as well. And the reason why I say that is because if you guys remember the scene where she sang Poor Unfortunate Souls, we saw many of them worm-looking creatures, which we later found out were merfolk, mermaids, who couldn't keep their end of her unfair deal from what I can see. We do know that she died at the end of the film because Eric stabbed her with the tip of the ship directly to her stomach. And when she got into Hazbin Hell, I thought that she needed to transform into a more human creature and give her the legs that she gave Ariel during their unfair deal. The reason why I did this to her is to basically remove her sense of power. I feel like her most powerful moment was when she turned into a giant kraken lady, so removing the tentacles is kind of like making her look weaker, a punishment for her obsession with power. You guys could also probably tell by now, but I did remove her classic white hair and replaced it with a dead octopus just as a nod to how she herself died, because seeing this would constantly give her a reminder in how she nearly got what she wanted, but in the end has failed. And I did give her some aspects of her tentacles back in a way, but instead of making them a part of her, they kind of act like chains holding her back. So the tentacles that she once had are now, I guess, the kind of things that are constantly punishing her in hell. So that's why you guys could see that they're wrapped around her more than her controlling it. So just want to let you guys know she can't control those tentacles at all. She lost all sense of control to them, but I would say imagine that they're like parasitic creatures on her instead. I also wanted to give her an interesting dress just because I've heard from somewhere that she or her design was actually inspired by drag queens. So I gave her a short black dress underneath, and then for the overall part of her dress, like the bottom part, it's a sheer type tulle material that is see-through. And I think that in Hazbin Hell, she will still be like herself and she will try to be an overlord. She was basically one when she was alive, keeping all the poor unfortunate souls in her lair, so this wouldn't be any different. Except there is now a twist for her abilities. So when she captures a soul to be a part of her contract, the tentacles around her loosens. But whenever she fails a contract, so for example when she deliberately messes with them, therefore going against her own contract, then the tentacles will tighten. It gives her an incentive to keep doing what she's doing, but punishes her whenever she tries to be too greedy. So in a way, it's teaching her to be a fair person. So Hades was also one of the most popular requests I got for this particular series, and I do admit I was a bit hesitant with this one, just for a couple of reasons. The first reason is because he's the god of the underworld, so technically he's already hell-like in terms of his character design, so designing him to be a part of Hazbin Hotel Hell was going to be quite difficult just because he's already quite a hellish looking creature. And secondly, he never actually died in the Hercules film, and I'll talk about this one later as well. But in terms of his personality, we know that he's quite a calculated and cruel man for various of reasons. So, I mean, he was prepared to kill an infant and take over the world by all means. He also spent years maliciously planning to dethrone Zeus, and he's plotted to kill Hercules using various beasts. He also plays with people to take their soul, just like he did with Meg. So this guy was basically a walking red flag. So with all that, we do have a lot of reasons why he would go to hell. The issue is that he never even died in the film. Sure, he got sent to the River Styx, apparently that's what it was called, and he was dragged down by the very souls that inhabited that river, but he's a god, so that wouldn't be enough to even actually take him down. In my opinion, likely chance is that he managed to escape somehow and kept a low profile for a while. But let's imagine that he did die, or at least he got demoted to a point where he was no longer a god. Because after all, he did have a potion to turn Hercules into a human, so maybe one of the other gods found the recipe for this potion, and as punishment for his acts, he got turned into a human that eventually passed away. That's my whole theory of it. So with that in mind, for this design, I wanted him to look a bit more depleted, a little bit older, a little bit weaker, and we see that when he got dipped into the spirit river, is what I like to call it, that his hair did went out because it's made out of flames or fire, and I wanted a similar idea for his new hair. So instead of the luminescent strong blue hair he now has this dull barely lit hair. And for the most part of his outfit, I did basically keep it quite similar to what he was wearing in the Hercules film. And the reason for this is because I wanted him to have a constant reminder of what he's lost. Because to be fair, even though he wasn't very happy with his job being the god of the underworld, he was still a god. He still had a good thing going for him. So making him keep the clothes he had from when he was in his prime, it's to basically give him the reminder of what he's lost. He's also had these black smoke effects at the bottom of his robe, and I wanted to think that this effect was to accentuate the fact that he's the god of the underworld and the darkness in the underworld is a part of him. But I replaced these with effects that we saw in the Spirit River, kind of like a nod to show that he has now become a part of the river that collected souls he looked after, in a way. So you guys would see a little bit later on that his kind of black smoke effects, I've kind of got rid of that and have these not watery effects, but a more of an effect that reminded us of the river Styx. I guess I was trying to say that they kind of look like the waves that you saw in that river, but it's just I wanted some part of that river to be on him as well. And speaking of which, you guys will see a bit later on that I added these spirit hands across the bottom part of his robe. And again, that's just because it's a part of the river Styx, so I would imagine that when he's walking around hell, he would kind of walk as if something is dragging him down. Again, a constant reminder for what he's lost. I would say overall though, I haven't really changed much about Hades' design, just because he still kind of looks like Hades, but I wanted him to look slightly weaker. You guys might notice that he's also carrying this lamp around, and that's because of if you guys remember my story about Stingy Jack and how he's this guy that tricked the devil so many times that basically he can't go to hell. I wanted that story to not be a part of his design, but I just thought that would be such a cool concept as well, that in the end, when he lost his godly power, he was given this flame to basically roam around hell forever, and that flame is the only flame he's got to remind himself of his prime. And you guys could see in here as well that I've changed his color palette to be a bit more green than it is blue. Again, it's a nod to the river Styx, just because in the film, the river itself, for some reason, it was green, or at least when he was dragged into it, it was green. So I wanted to add that color palette into his color palette. I would say that my design for Hades in here, in the series, is actually one of my favorite out of all the Hazbin Hotel designs I've done with the Disney villains. I think he'd be my favorite design out of all of them. My second close one would be Lady Tremaine. If you guys remembered, I drew her to be like this werecat looking lady. So I would say my first favorite design is definitely Hades, and my second would be Lady Tremaine. And I also really like this kind of nearly minty green palette he's got going on here. Lastly, we have another popular request, which was Scar. A lot of people had so much concerns with his designs since he is an animal, and we don't really see animals going to Hazbin Hell. It's really only people. But I would say, because he was so evil, because he was so malicious, maybe, I don't know who makes the choices in Hazbin Hotel Hell yet, but maybe they made an exception for him, because not only did he kill his brother, but he also lied to his pact and also tried to get his nephew killed. So I think this would justify his position in hell. From what I could recall, Simba didn't actually kill him. I think he fell down somewhere as well when he and Simba were having a spat. He fell down somewhere, and it was actually the hyenas that got him, or at least it was heavily implied. And if you guys remember, the reason why the hyenas attacked him in the first place after that was because he was placing the blame of Mufasa's death to the hyenas, and of course they weren't too happy with that because they considered it as a betrayal, so they decided that he will be their next meal. Anyways, for this design, I did humanize Scar. And looking back, I really do wish that I turned him into some sort of lion furry type creature instead. Because in Hazbin Hotel, we do see that there are a lot of creatures that, what I like to call, have the furry designs on them. Like for example, Luna and the Hounds of Hell, they are kind of basically our furries. And I guess the reason, or one of the reasons why I didn't turn Scar into a furry was, one, because it wasn't in my mind at the time when I was drawing him. I was thinking of people's concerns about, oh, he's an animal, he really wouldn't be in hell, so I wouldn't know how you would design him. So my solution to that was to basically design him as a human. And secondly, I'm not the best at drawing furries. At most, I could draw ponies just because I grew up with My Little Pony, as you guys could see. So I grew up drawing ponies and drawing their anatomy. But when it comes to actually drawing proper good furries like Luna, for example, I find it really difficult to draw Luna without making her look too humanoid, if that makes sense. Anyways, moving on from that, the type of design I was going for with Scar's human form, I suppose, is giving him a look that resembles Loki, the god of mischief. Anyways, the kind of vibe I was going for with Scar's human Hazbin Hotel design is basically evil rich boy. So I shortened his hair. I know that his hair would look a lot better when it's long, but I shortened his hair for a good reason, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But I gave him this really long leather-like trench coat with some fluffy accents. It's kind of similar to what's his name, Val was wearing, which is a very long trench coat with fluffy on it, and I would imagine that he and Val would get along, and this would be a gift from Val. And in Hazbin Hotel, a lot of the characters in there, the male characters especially, they have kind of like a suit vibe going on, so I wanted to add that to him as well, just so that he fits in the universe. I still kept some parts of his lion design on him as well, so you could see that he has lion ears, he will have that lion tail, and he will also hold a scepter just because I think it would suit him. But yeah, his hair, I did keep it short this time, and that's because for the colouring stages you guys will see that it gives a bit more of a burnt vibe. So his hair won't be fully black like how it is in the film, but it will have some, I guess, fiery effects onto it, as if his hair is constantly burning and there's no way for him to stop it. And the reason why I did this is because of two scenes. The scene where he was fighting Simba and the scene where he was being eaten by the hyenas. In both of those scenes, there was so much fire going on because the lightning hit a dead bush or something. So during that time, during those very crucial moments leading up to his death, there was fire everywhere. And I wanted that scene to be implanted on him, just kind of as a constant reminder of how he passed, or the environment for when he passed. So I wanted that to be on his design, so you guys could see me do it now. I will make his hair a bit blacker, darker a bit later on, because it didn't look too much like Scar right now. But yeah, that's why his hair right now looks like it's constantly burning. Well, that's all I have for now, and I hope you guys like these designs. And again, I'm really excited for season 2 of Hazbin Hotel, and I can't wait for it, you know. But do let me know which one of these designs are your favorite, and also let me know which characters I should do next. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all next Mango Monday. Bye!